Welcome back, everyone. Okay, today we're testing the absolute limits of human endurance, greed, and honestly, gravity. We're diving into an incredibly fascinating social and physical experiment straight from our source material for this explainer. What actually happens when ordinary people are presented with a never-ending, giant mountain of cash and told they can keep whatever they can physically hold? Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a dream come true, right? But as we're about to see, getting money for free actually comes with a surprisingly heavy price tag.
Seriously, really think about this for a second. If I dumped $1 million in small bills right in front of you right now, how much cash could you physically carry? Because we aren't talking about writing a quick check or doing a bank transfer, no way. We're talking about frantically stuffing it into your pockets, your hoodie, your pants, maybe even your socks. How much physical weight can you actually strap to your own body before your muscles completely give out and you just collapse under the sheer mass of all that newly acquired wealth?
Money weighs a lot. You know, it's such a simple statement, but it perfectly sets up the central thesis of our explainer today. Because when the rules strictly state that you can keep whatever you carry without putting it down, gravity suddenly becomes your absolute biggest enemy. We always tend to think of money as just a number on a screen, but out in the real, physical world, accumulating wealth comes with a massive, punishing physical toll. 50 pounds. That's exactly what we're talking about here. In this experiment, two cameramen, Timmy and Tarek, were each handed a duffel bag containing $25,000. But all that cash weighed a staggering 50 pounds. And here's the kicker. To keep it, they couldn't set those bags down for the entire shoot. This rule immediately transformed what should be a massive, life-changing payout into a grueling 8-hour endurance test. And remember, they still had to hold their heavy cameras and actually do their jobs the whole time. Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, the weight of wealth, the chaos of keep what you carry. The foundational rule of this entire experiment was simple but totally brutal. You get to keep any cash you successfully pack onto your person without dropping a single bill. Naturally, this triggered some unbelievable human reactions. The initial strategies for grabbing cash were just a frantic frenzy. People were desperately stuffing every single crevice of their clothing, literally jamming handfuls of bills deep into their pant legs. One of the absolute wildest moments involved a group of restaurant coworkers. They were given just 60 seconds, and they practically dove headfirst into the cash pile, frantically packing 50 grand into duffel bags. And then you had the people trying to stand perfectly still on a giant money scale, basically acting like human statues, while thousands of dollars were piled into their arms, just praying they didn't drop anything. Moving right along, Section 2, Precision and Balance, High-Stakes Motor Skills. 32. Because in some of these scenarios, brute force and frantic grabbing just weren't going to cut it. Take this wildly confident contestant who was given a tiny rectangle and a massive pile of brand new iPhones, each worth about $1,000. The rule here, stack as many as you can vertically, but if the tower falls over, you get absolutely nothing. With perfectly steady hands and total nerves of steel, he managed to carefully balance a towering stack of 32 phones. He walked away with over $30,000 in hardware just by keeping his hands from shaking. Incredible! Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer absurdity of the wealth-to-weight ratio between these two radically different challenges. On one side, you've got the grueling heavy lifting, carrying a 50-pound duffel bag of cash for 8 exhausting hours just to win 25 grand. But on the other side, light luxury. A contestant went to a jeweler and was told she could keep whatever rings she could fit onto just one finger. And one of those rings alone was worth $7,300. In literally seconds, with practically zero physical effort, she slid $25,000 worth of jewelry onto a single finger. It brilliantly illustrates how the physical form of an item completely changes the difficulty of keeping it. All right, on to Section 3, Feats of Raw Strength, when money fights back. This experiment didn't just test your average, everyday people. It actively tested exactly how heavy valuable items truly are when massive sums and massive objects are on the line. Just picture this sheer visual spectacle. A 4-time world's strongest man steps up to a custom deadlift bar attached to a fully functioning Chevrolet Camaro. The rule was beautifully simple but completely terrifying. Lift the car, keep the car. So while regular contestants were over there sweating and groaning under a few pounds of paper cash, this absolute titan successfully hoisted the back end of an entire automobile right off the ground to claim his prize. No big deal, right? This actually beautifully summarizes the totally absurd economy of effort at play here. Take the waitress, for example. She carefully balanced $8,000 on a serving tray. That takes incredible precision. Then, of course, we have the strongman deadlifting an entire Camaro. But the real heartbreak of the day, that's Frank. Frank had to bench press his cash. He loaded up the bar with a massive $22,000, but unfortunately, greed got the better of him. Instead of just doing the required 1 rep, he decided to show off and go for 2. His muscles just totally gave out, he failed on the 2nd rep, and ultimately lost his chance at keeping that full payout. It is the perfect example of why you need to know your physical limits when money is weighing you down.
Next up, Section 4, Agility Under Pressure. Frantic action and strict rules.
Here is where the physical toll of carrying all that heavy cash violently collided with high-stress, time-sensitive obstacles. You really have to understand the brutal parameters of the laser maze challenge. Step 1. Stuff as much heavy cash as you can deep into your clothes. Step 2. Navigate this incredibly complex, twisting laser obstacle course. Step 3. Reach the end to win the keys to a brand new car. But consider Step 4. If you touch a single laser or drop even one solitary dollar bill from your stuffed clothes, you lose absolutely everything. And unfortunately for a contestant named Nolan, after meticulously cramming his clothes completely full of cash, he disastrously dropped his money midway through the run. He had to watch his fortunes literally crash to the floor. $100,000. In an incredibly intense 60-second challenge, this absolutely huge sum of money was vacuum-sealed in bags and hidden at the very bottom of a massive pool filled with tiny, slippery Orbeez. The contestant was literally throwing himself into these little gel beads, scrambling blindly at the bottom against the clock, and despite repeatedly stubbing his toe in the chaotic frenzy, he actually managed to dig up and throw out 40 grand before the buzzer finally sounded.
And that brings us to Section 5, the ultimate showdown, endurance and combat. So after hours and hours of carrying heavy bags, balancing huge stacks, and sprinting through obstacle courses, the physical exhaustion of the day finally culminated in literal, high-stakes physical combat. For the grand finale, Chandler and Chris stepped into a sumo ring to fight for a luxury Rolex. And I absolutely love this detail. The winner's mom also got a surprise $10,000 bonus. What a hilarious and wholesome prize combo for a sumo match, right? But the main event was our 2 cameramen, Timmy and Tarek. Remember those 50-pound bags of cash they'd been lugging around for 8 straight hours? Well, they had to step into the ring and fight each other while still physically carrying those exhausting heavy bags. 25 grand was on the line for the last cameraman standing. Which brings us to the ultimate punchline of this entire explainer. After carrying 50 pounds of cash for 8 incredibly grueling hours, Tarek simply ran away from the sumo ring and lost his $25,000. When that whistle blew, sheer physical and mental exhaustion completely took over his body. He didn't even try to fight. He had suffered all day long, enduring burning muscles and pure fatigue, only to literally sprint out of the ring, completely abandoning the wealth he had fought so incredibly hard to hold on to all day. So it all comes down to this final, provocative question. Knowing what you know now about the true weight of wealth, the bone-deep exhaustion, and the immense pressure, would you survive the physical and mental toll of acquiring a mountain of quote-unquote free cash? Or would you end up exactly like Tariq, just running away when the burden became way too heavy to bear? It really makes you rethink the heavy price of free money, doesn't it? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.